as my identity, no longer speaks as if it were who I am. I am me now. Wow. Nano, can you maybe tell me the point of view that I was reading from? Is that from a screen?
Yeah, so the text I've written after I finished the whole project um, was indeed written from the perspective of the screen. And I started the project. I usually start my projects just experimenting with the material,
Mm-hmm.
material that's intriguing to me, that does something interesting to the way we perceive it, and then I try to work backwards and try to understand what is it actually telling me. So what is it trying to do? What is happening here? I believe we have the image now of a detail of the project. Um,
Is
and
this the skin of the screen that
it,
we are
well, it
looking
is
at?
now, yeah. So it is this the skin of the screen that I created for it. Um, because the screen itself, you never look at its own skin. You always look at a video, or you look at a website,
Yeah.
or text.
Yeah, true.
So the screen itself is never able to show what it is.
Yeah,
It's only showing you other things.
true.
And so the project after material experimentation became about this. It became about how can that screen become itself? How can it have its own identity, and can it not be dictated anymore by what it has to show and what we as human beings want it to do, and what we send to it. Um, so what, maybe I'll explain a bit what you're looking at here.
Yeah, that would be
Um,
interesting. Maybe explain a little bit more of the concept first, and then I would love to go into the like materiality and the processing.
sure, yeah. So um, in the case of this project, I did several experiments, and they were all very different. We'll be looking at two of them here today. One is at the exhibition, which is the one here, um, and I like I said, I worked from material, so I try to just not think about what it has to be saying. I follow what is intriguing to me, what triggers some curiosity. I'm fascinated by curiosity itself. I think it's a very good thing for people to have. It
For
brings up,
sure. I mean, to
um,
be curious about something that you're so familiar with, like a screen that you look at, you look at it for so long, but I've never seen this like kind of, I've never thought about the screen as like
yeah. I
something
mean,
that can say or respond to you as if you look at it as a completely different thing all of a sudden.
right? Yeah, usually look at it as a window, as something that's transparent.
Yeah, and
Um, You can see the same thing when a water droplet falls on your screen.
oh really?
Yeah, it does exactly the same thing. It makes a small bubble
Yeah.
because the glass we have on our phones, they're all water repellent, so it makes this beautiful round bubble.
Is that how you
Uh,
discovered this effect?
yeah,
That's
it's
crazy.
just it's very simple. You can see it if you walk in the rain and water droplets fall on your phone. You can see, if you look into this bubble, you can start to see colors.
I'm definitely doing
Um,
this at home. I'm gonna spill
yeah,
some water on
it's
my
like
phone.
it won't harm your phone, at least not the ones we have now.
Yeah.
um,
Awesome.
and and then what you're doing is you're looking past what it is trying to show, and you look right into how it is showing you. So you look right underneath the skin, um, at the way it works, the way it is, not even necessarily manufactured, but the true aesthetic of the screen we cannot usually see.
Right, exactly.
Um, and then at least this part of the project became about, okay, how can I bring this true form of what the screen is, um, at least from how I was starting to understand the screen. How can I bring that to the surface, um, and make sure that it can let go of showing anything else. So yeah, maybe it's nice now to talk a bit about how this one works. So
Yeah,
this
I'd love to
the
hear.
screen itself is just white, so it's just a white screen. It's not anything else. And because white is made up of red, green, and blue in a screen, that means all the pixels are on. um, and uh, what it does is just it's a lens. It amplifies, and it doesn't do anything else. The screen also, this was an early version that I did, but the screen that is here is also um, not. It can't do anything else anymore. The circuit board is disconnected. It's
Right.
gone. It can never show any other image. The also I can explain a bit about how a screen works. Maybe that's if you're
Yeah,
interested
I
in
think it's
this.
super interesting because normally we see what is projected on it, but we don't actually look at the light that's streaming through you
Yeah.
constantly. And I've always had this like feeling when I look at my phone or at the computer that my eyes are getting tired
Mhm.
from looking at it. And when I look at your visual or the screen is almost like yeah, the effect that it has when you're in front of it really does something to the vision, you know.
Yeah.
It almost like we were saying maybe needs to come with a trigger warning, like
Yeah,
like
no, like
effect.
everybody that's also standing in front of it here,
Yeah.
they have the feeling they can't look at it for longer than a
No.
minute because it's bad for them.
Yeah.
It's not bad,
Yeah.
really, but it's disorienting. It's
Yeah.
strange.
And do,
It's very bright also.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe that's also something as a designer that we don't consider how much of our digital media is really on a screen now and how much we have to focus on this? Your project in a way makes me think about, you know, how do we, you know, reconsider the fact that this medium is something that also maybe we shouldn't look at it for too long, you know? Maybe in a way it's saying something that, you know, this is me now. I don't know. This is my personal
Yeah, no,
interpretation.
yeah.
I
I
feel
mean,
like
the way I was trying to understand it, and what was also very interesting to me is that we've been using the screen for so long, and then looking into the identity of the screen itself.
right.
We've all seen the screen, but I don't think anyone actually really sees the screen.
Yeah.
So we all look at it, we all have it. We've been doing this for a while now.
Yeah.
It amazes me that we
don't
don't
look
see
at it.
this. No, you could see it on old screens. You could see if you're really close, you can start seeing a bit of the pixels. But even then, it's a very different thing to experience something and to
Yeah.
know it.
Indeed.
So yeah, that's to me
Yeah.
that's
Well,
interesting aspect.
I would love to go back to what you were starting to explore a little bit and maybe revealed the materiality of the screen and how it's made or
Yeah.
the thing we don't look at and start looking at it. Maybe you can say a little bit about.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a technician, so I might be just explaining this in the way I understand it. Um, but I have to start a bit with explaining how light works before I can actually um, explain how the screen works.
Yeah.
And I try to link light with the way water moves. So light is both a particle and a waveform. For the sake of this, we're treating it as a waveform. And light is usually it moves in all directions. It's like you drop something in the water and it moves in circles. But it doesn't have a particular direction. It goes everywhere. Um, but you can polarize light, which basically means that if something is moving in a circle, and it goes through this filter, it will only move in one direction. It's like it becomes waves at the ocean. They all move in a similar pattern. Um, what happens when you have a polarizing filter which says, okay, this light form has to move vertically,
Yeah.
and then you put a polarizer that says now only horizontal polarized light
Yeah.
can move through, it means it's blocked.
Yeah.
It can't. There is no.
There is
You can
no-
look at it as a grid,
Right.
and if you have a grid, and you're moving in the complete perpendicular to it,
Yeah.
you're just blocked out.
Whoa. So you're almost
Um,
like entering a different dimension.
Yeah, and so
That's great.
what the screen does, it has LCD display, stands for liquid crystal display, and it has all these crystals in a liquid. You can see it if you push on your screen. Don't push too hard, but if you push on your screen, these might actually be LED screens, which again are just lights. But the LCD display, they have these crystals, and when the crystal is powered on, they create this beautiful like quarter of a helix,
Okay.
which what it does is it takes the light that is going in a horizontal pattern,
Yes.
and it bends it to go vertical, and then it can pass through.
It's like the aurora borealis, right? Is that kind of the effect that we see?
Yeah, like it's really, you have the light, that because of these crystals, it's not that the light is turned on or off. The light is always on, but you
Right.
just change the polarization by moving it across this quarter of a helix.
Right.
And that's when it passes through, and it does this for every pixel. So every pixel, so the red, the green, and the blue in the screen, they're all being either turned on and make this beautiful helix,
Yeah.
or the crystals are a random pattern, and
Incredible.
the light doesn't do anything different, and it's being blocked out.
That is
Yeah.
truly like, I think I will have to look into this phenomenon a
Yeah,
little
you
bit
have
more,
these. I mean, it's
but I
it's
get
on.
an idea.
Maybe you've seen it on YouTube. You have these videos of people taking one of these polarizing filters off,
Yeah.
and what happens then is that your screen is always white. You will not be able to see anything,
Okay.
because there is no light blocked out anywhere, so it just passes through, and then there is no second filter. What you can do is you can take the second filter off the screen and just put it in front of your eyes,
Wow.
and then through that you can see what's on the screen.
That's
So
incredible.
you can make this secret screen. You can do it on the glasses, and you have the filters here, and then you
I
can
feel
see
like-
what's happening.
I feel
and
like
everybody
another
else can't.
project.
Yeah, I mean that's why it was interesting to me that there's so many things about the screen that work in a very interesting way.
This is super amazing, and I'm really glad we got to show it in our Enter platform. And I guess now we should wrap it up. But before you go, maybe you can tell us where to find you,
Sure.
and maybe something that's happening next for you, and how we can follow that.
Yeah, I mean, you can follow me just through my name, which is on Instagram is @nanosimonis. Projects called I Am a Screen. We're all on the Design Academy website, of course.
Yeah.
Maybe the project is here. That's here. I'll quickly talk a bit about it. It's also part of the same project.
Yeah.
It's an LCD display with the crystals opening up, and then the light passes through, or it doesn't, and it creates this abstract pattern. This is the one that's also in the graduation book. There's a video on the Design Academy
Great.
Design
Then
Academy website.
people should
and,
definitely check that out.
yeah, it's also part of the whole thing. I'm developing new work in this realm. Yeah.
Great. Well,
The
thank you
screen,
so much, Nano.
You're
It
welcome.
was lovely
Thank
talking to you, and see you in the real world.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Is it all working? Okay, that's great. Wait, let's arrange this. Give me a second. Very beautiful paper. All right. We're ready for me. Great. Hi everybody joining us here in the Milan location of the Design Academy exhibition, and also for the people joining us online. I'm here with my two guests, Noor and Ilya. Very happy to have you guys here with me. My name is Shad, and today is the second edition of the episode Let's Talk About Impact, which is conversation episodes piece about the research I did for my graduation project. I'm a researcher, UX designer, and for my graduation project, I investigated the question of impact. I was really interested in that term because recently we've seen quite a trend in design. A lot of people talking about impact of their project, impact of their practice, and that was something I was really interested in. And then I started talking a lot with designers, asking them how they position themselves towards this, how they measure impact. I was very keen to understand if there was a way to process this, and I discovered it's actually very diverse, and a lot of people and a lot of designers and organizations have different ways of positioning themselves towards impact. And I thought, well, instead of proposing my perspective, I thought, why not just offering a platform where we can hear about designers and organizations' perspective on impact and how they measure it, which is also why we're here today. And here you can see I'm sharing the screen of a platform I designed where I also want to collect people's approach and ways of measuring impact for their projects. And that's what we're going to talk about today as well with Ilya and Noor here. So I will introduce you guys first. First of all, Ilya, you're here presenting your project, and correct me if I'm wrong, Update the Upgrade, where you ask the question, can our online behavior follow the pace of growth of plants? And you created an online marketplace where shoppers can find a live listing of future washed products with a server that powers the website of plant and solar energy, and the heat that it produces also sustains the plant. Do you want to maybe talk a little bit more about yourself, your practice, and also what you design?
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. At the moment, the work that I'm presenting here and the work that I'm continuing at the moment is called Warm Earth. So it's like a different iteration of the previous one of my graduation work. Basically, what I'm doing is researching how we can turn a parasitic relationship of plants and network infrastructures into a symbiotic one, and if this is even possible. Yeah, that's what I'm presenting here in Milan, and this is what I'm continuing to do to see what it means to create artificial ecosystems and to also self-sustain and investigate the world around me through self-sustainability. Yeah, that's what I'm working on at the moment.
Very nice, thank you. And no, you're here presenting the project called the Alliance of Common Waters. And you're also wondering if the small-scale practice of community gardens be the blueprint of a large global problem, where you look at the issue of the international waters and their usage, and you propose to take the community garden as a model for the shared care of the oceans and their resources. Do you also want to talk a little bit more about yourself and your practice?
Yes, of course. Yeah, well, my project really stems from what I really think, what I value in design is these small stories and small scale communities, and taking those and their stories to learn from it on bigger scales and to also learn from it in the complex system of politics that we have within geopolitics. And at the moment, I'm kind of furthering my research a bit more on a scientific level because I'm studying political science, and it's very interesting to see like these differences between what I did in Design Academy and what I'm doing there now. So that's what I'm kind of continuing on.
Very cool. That sounds very interesting. And yeah, welcome, and I'm very happy to have you guys here because I think
Thank you.
you're both tackling a very, very big social issue in the way that it concerns almost all of us. We either experience it or we've heard about those issues, but you're kind of having a very different approach and different formats for that, which I thought was really nice to get you guys in that conversation. And I guess to kick off the rest of our discussion, I kind of wanted to jump right in and ask you guys to share with me your perspective on the notion of impact and how you define it, whether or not you have a position on it, or you just completely decide to ignore it as well, which is completely fine.
Well, I think what was nice, which I didn't think about yet, but someone just reminded me of, that there is also creating and designing or making art or any other form of culture is also has an internal impact, which we maybe sometimes forget about. And I think this was definitely how I approached the work while graduating in lockdown, in the pandemic, that this internal impact was at the forefront of my process. And that is the same with, I'm not going to solve the issues of the pollution that network infrastructures cause, but I am cultivating this idea of homegrown and investigating, can this even be in symbiosis with each other? So in that sense, it was more of an internal process too, and had a lot of internal impact, but not so much maybe on a very big, broad external scale. And sometimes I have to remind myself that that has also a big value, that you cultivate something, maybe on a small scale, and then we can talk maybe later what that may be, what kind of impact that can have on a bigger scale.
So when you mean internal impact, is like the impact you can have on yourself?
Yeah, and how from impact from within yourself, it can also maybe you cultivate a way of being, or you cultivate values, and what can that then have, what kind of bigger impact can that have on others or on a bigger scale? Does it make sense?
Yeah, I think I struggled quite a lot also with this idea of impact during my studies at Design Academy, and what the influence of my project and my research is. And also because you're working on quite a fast pace on projects, I find it sometimes hard to do like research somewhere and meet people and kind of almost use their stories, and then I have to go and move on to another project. And sometimes it felt a bit like I really had to be careful not to only take things from people and also see what I was actually offering. I didn't really want to use people and their stories just for my projects, and I found that always quite hard, and also hard to realize like what am I really leaving in the place for it. So yeah, I find it hard to define what impact should be in design, but if I look at how impact is used often in like companies or when you collaborate with companies, it's often very quantitative, and I definitely think that you should look at the more qualitative side of impact. And maybe for me then I would define it now as just the connections you can make between people, and if these connections can last and they're also sustainable without you, then you've maybe created impact. And yeah, that's how I would maybe define it.
That's nice. So it really also sounds like you both are also very aware of where you decide to position yourself, because yeah, impact is a very big thing, and that's also what I've heard so far in my conversations, that instead of trying to define impact, which is impossible, is okay, where do I decide to, put the cursor, and where do I decide to position myself? But then I wonder, because you're tackling such big issues, how do you not drown yourself into this, and how you decide to be like, okay, that's what I'm going to deliver, and that's the things I'm gonna focus on producing, or that's the outcome or you just go and then you just figure it out of intuition?
Well, the thing is with my project, the topic seems to be quite big, but my research focuses mainly on one micro environment, the community garden, and that was very overseeable and very easy to research and very easy to get into and to work with them. And I really decided for myself to make this whole idea of the international waters and how do we maintain them, and that's a very large topic, and I never really had the intention also to resolve that or to create any kind of solution for it. I just wanted to really research this micro community and show like maybe this could be one of the examples that could go instead of what is going on now and instead of our political systems now. So it was still the research was quite small because the research was very much located in like this micro environment.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a constant question on how you deal with tackling very big topics and channeling this into a work and exploring it yourself into a design work. Yeah, what can I say about it? I think it's for me this constant struggle that you want to have this big impact, and it's also a struggle to constantly understand what is my position as a maker in this, what is my position as an individual, is my ego involved in this. I've also created a fiction documentary with residents from the capital of Kazakhstan, and it was about co-creating a script and a fictional story and collective storytelling, but it was for my graduation work. So how do you indeed like not abuse or not appropriate, and how can this co-creation really be a co-creation even though you initiated it? And I think it's nice what you said, Noor, that maybe it's good when you leave, it can still exist, that you are not the crucial person that everyone depends on. And I think that is then also on a small scale can have a big impact. And I think through doing it on a small scale, it also has impact on a big scale.
No, of course, it escalates almost.
Yeah.
And do you guys have now because your project, you have done them like some time ago already, so have you had ways to witness a certain I don't know, reaching your objectives, or even can already notice a certain impact at your own scales or desires already?
I don't really have noticed that yet, because I think maybe with this project, especially like the impact that I want to create is quite vague, and I mostly just want to like create a discussion about our political systems and how we could find alternatives for those. But yeah, that also really depends on having a stage to do that, and I don't really have that yet. So
yeah, I also didn't. I think I never thought about my work as having, or never approached it to have a lot of impact. I think it was more of an example, an exploration to engage yourself with infrastructures around you and to see how these work and to see how dependent you are on very centralized systems, and imagine some sort of other image of the future which can maybe not be only about progress and growth, but maybe about degrowth and actually looking at time as plants and trying to engage yourself with plants and work together with them. So it was more of a pledge and example to do that. And in the end, I'm the only one that did it, so it had a lot of impact on me. And I hope that through having impact on me, I can shine it through somehow to an audience. That I take them with this story, like I take them with me in my story, that I explored this. So in that sense, I am also quite a crucial actor. Yeah.
So then what would you guys say that, is there a way you can know when you start your project and you investigate and you create that tells you you're on the right way? Do you have something that gives you some kind of regular or feedback throughout the course of your project that can hint you that, okay, I'm going in the direction I was hoping to, or I'm going towards the ambitions I set for that project or initiative?
Well, what I had with the other work I made last year, this fiction documentary, was I had to collaborate with others. So it also meant giving up certain aesthetics, for instance, which are the Design Academy aesthetics that I learned in my education, which is very Western, a Western perspective on design. So working with a designer from Central Asia is very different. So I had to constantly also rechannel myself and my expectations and let go a bit of this ownership, which made me in the process have to like constantly check, where am I going, what am I expecting, how do I let go, how do I like follow my intuition, or when do I want to take control. So I think I learned a lot from that it's very important to constantly have these moments. Yeah.
And like those reality check along the way, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know if it's if I ever have this moment where I'm like, okay, I'm on the right way. But I do always notice that when you go into a project and you work with other people and with people's stories, then at some point you have to be careful, because you kind of plan out this track for yourself, but with that come assumptions. And if for example, somebody says something that actually dismisses your whole point of the project, then secretly you kind of don't want to use it. But you have to be careful of how you use that research and how you shape it, because you're not objective in that. And therefore I find it sometimes like hard to see like where it's really going, because on the one hand, like you have so much input from people and that kind of shapes your project, and then sometimes it falls into place, I guess, and sometimes there's not really a point that you wanted to make, and then you have to find something else, I guess.
So like this tension between, I'm a designer, but I'm also a conscious researcher, and then there's inputs you get, and there's where you want the design project to go for it to work, kind of, and that's a constant tension. And
I remember reading, I think it was like from Harvard, there was this manifesto of conducting social research, and one of the points they made, what I always try to keep in mind, is like that people's stories always stay there, so treat them like they own it and not that like it's part of your ownership. And I find that a very important thing to keep in mind within any kind of research.
Yeah, that's interesting, and that makes me think that when I was doing my research, I realized also that the designers were not talking much about their failures as well, but when you start digging a little bit, you realize that when you work with social questions and you work with people and you get input, there is failures eventually, but because we are so from a design community, we tend to always deliver and show the beautiful result and that it potentially worked. And do you guys have failures that really helped you, okay, understand that this is not the way to go and I should do things like that? Or did you have like some kind of big epiphany with those failures? Or
I'm thinking of it. What I found interesting to see, though, which maybe doesn't fully like go on with the question, but now that I'm doing like scientific studies more, I see like there's so much research in science that doesn't add on anything like new. That is literally just researching what is already there and kind of validating that research or falsifying it. And that did really make me realize, okay, maybe I was doing something wrong in Design Academy, because it doesn't make sense that every project I found this new input or point. Maybe sometimes it was a bit too much shaped by what I wanted to find, because there's like a lot of the times you don't find anything, and that's also something you found, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know always if there's space for that within design research or enough, or it's talked about enough.
Yeah.
I think for me personally, it's also it's constant error and like failing. and learning from that. I think also as a creator, there's a lot of insecure moments within the process, and I think it's very good to admit those also. And that was especially really good to do during graduation, during a pandemic, to talk about these things openly. Yeah. I don't have any other specific examples.
But would you feel would you be comfortable being more transparent on your failures and on on what didn't work, and sharing that with the rest of the community?
Yeah, of course, definitely. I think this is something we should do, and I think it's also good to, what I really focus on in my work is trying to not be too solutionistic, because I think this can easily have this sort of savior aspect to a work. And when something is not solutionist, like it's not a solution, then the way of creating the work is also much more focused on intuition and error and failing, and trying to see how does something communicate, and what are you then trying to do as a designer if you're not designing solutions. And I think these struggles, these questions, I would love to talk about more with people in the field. Definitely. How that can also, we can move a bit away from this, but then how do we continue?
Yeah, it's also a bit, sometimes I feel that even if you create a project not with the intention for it to be a solution, it still gets shaped when it's somewhere as the solution for something. And then you're like, oh, that was not my intention. But then, because it's, of course, I think it's really like easy and interesting if you say like, oh, this tackles this and tries to solve this. But often it's kind of idiotic to think that in a half a year you're gonna solve big issues, especially as a solo designer. So I wish there would be more, it would be more open to indeed also address whenever there's nothing to solve, or whether you just have a story to tell, or have other people that have a story to tell, instead of always this like, this solves, this tries to tackle this tries to solve this.
Yeah, so, a bit more honesty about, I just did that, and I just had two people talking with me, and that was good enough, or stuff like that. Yeah, I really recognize that. So what I was very kind of trying to push with the platform at Design, just we just have to be more open. And if you just had a very small scale project, it's okay. You don't have to hide it behind those very big achievements, or pretend big achievements, or something like that. Nice. And the last question, and we'll try to keep it short, but I think it's a really interesting question, is I wanted to ask you guys if you think, how do you think it's, or why do you think it's important to measure impact in design, or if it is important?
I don't think it's important to measure it necessarily. I think it's important to be aware of it, and not only of the good impact you have, but also of what you can do if you have impact that's not necessarily good and that can damage people. I think it's really important to think of the ethics of your research, and if you protect people's privacy, if you use what they say in an ethical way, things like that. So maybe not necessarily measure impact, but be more aware of it.
Yeah, I can definitely copy that. And also, I think it's important to also be a bit realistic about those things, and maybe say more what it's doing than the impact that you expect it to have, and talk about that, and not so much how much impact it will have on something, because this is also not up to you. And I think later in the process of when the project exists, it's very good to also keep on understanding how the project changes if it exists somewhere else, and then revisit this sort of impact question. I think it's very nice to look at work like this over time. Yeah.
So to keep being aware that you create impact whatsoever, and just kind of trying to have that check-in if it's okay with what you were you wanted to do, and like you were saying as well, if it's in line with the ethics also of your research.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting to see now that like social design research enters more of like also more the capitalistic space, that you see that people really try to measure impact, and I think that's kind of where it goes wrong, because then you make it something that you, yeah, I don't think it's measurable, and then you, because you start to measure it, you actually lose the good impact you can have, and you maybe even don't oversee the things that are important within your research. So I hope that would happen. No, it would happen less, or not. Would not be approached in this way too much anymore.
Yeah, I get it. A little bit of the best of both worlds, I guess. But nice. And our conversation has to come to an end, and it was a very short but very fruitful and rich conversation. Nora, I think you have another talk just right after this one, so I think you will talk a little bit more extensively about your approach and your project. And Ilya, we can find your project here at the show. Before you go, I really would like to ask you guys, if you find a minute, if you would like to participate and contribute to the platform at Design and add your project, and also you have on this platform all the space also to describe a little bit more the so-called impact of your project, whether or not it was a success and your failures and that sort of stuff, and really want to try to expand that community, online community, as much as possible. That would be super cool. And
yeah, nice.
Great. Yeah, of course.
And thank you so much. It was really cool to have you here.
Thank you.
Thanks for the invitation. That's great.
Thanks. And I think that's it.
Privatized, defined by borders. But in this world, there's one space open for all, the international waters. No one has ownership over this space behind national jurisdiction. There's no law and no leader. But international waters are not benefiting from their lawless position. They became victim to overfishing and pollution. The state of these waters is vital to our world and has a large influence on climate change. This is why the UN is currently in search of a way to control crimes against these waters.
Our oceans feed us, protect us, regulate our climate, our weather, anchors industries from transportation to tourism to trade of all kinds.
And within this, they can rely on an unexpected example. The community garden. This common space is managed successfully. The owners do not only share the garden's yield, but also knowledge and responsibility. Could this small-scale initiative function as a blueprint for the international waters? This is the Alliance of Common Waters. The Alliance is built up according to the working methods of the community garden and follows 8 design principles established by Elinor Ostrom in her research governing the commons. 1. Although accessible to everyone, the common has clearly defined borders. In the garden, these are defined by a hedge. When people work or pick vegetables in the garden, they automatically agree with the rules. The border of the high seas lays 200 miles away from the coastlines and can be less clearly defined. Thus, the waters are a large open space, and the Alliance of Common Waters cannot force all users of the high seas to be part of the alliance, but will create benefits for its members and include them in the rulemaking. And when members use the high seas, they will have to work in the circumstances that the alliance creates. 2. It is important to have local solutions for local problems. Both the community garden and the alliance deal with external factors and indirect stakeholders who influence the state of the space. An example, in many parts of the oceans, fishing is not profitable, yet the fishing industry is active in these places. This is due to the fishing subsidies national governments give to their fishers. Countries subsidize fishing in order to protect jobs. This causes the fishers to be active even when there's not enough fish for them to profit. This will make them keep fishing until the last fish is gone, creating depletion in areas of the high seas. By working together with external stakeholders, the Alliance looks for a way to create jobs at high sea in places where it's needed, removing fishing subsidies and leaving overfished areas to heal. This creates a better climate and more food for the future. 3. In case of a large common pool, a leveling system might be necessary. The community garden is based on trust and responsibility. Because this sense is stronger in small groups and the Alliance deals with many stakeholders, the Alliance works with levels. There are 2 types of levels. The geographical area, based on different areas in the high seas and their environmental issues, and the group's stakeholders, people from different expertise that are active in the same area. Each of the stakeholder groups takes care of an area or an issue. This creates the sense of responsibility in a similar way as the community garden. 4. Rulemaking in the common pool needs to be accessible for everyone. In the garden, rulemaking and meetings are held on times when members are working together in the garden. This creates an accessible meeting for everyone. The Alliance recreates this principle by analyzing where the members are most active and creating a physical space for discussion and information in these areas. This correlates with the level system discussed earlier. The results of these talks can be further communicated to the other groups on an online platform. Every successful common has a monitoring system. The stakeholder groups are monitored. This monitoring system is inspired by the rotating system of the community garden. During each term, one of the stakeholders from each group monitors the group's development. This stakeholder is still working in his own expertise, but has the extra assignment to communicate the tasks that need to be done that term. The monitor also reports the developments online, and has the task to see if the area is mined according to the annual report. This report is part of Principle 6. 6. Rules and graduated sanctions. Each common is based on a foundation of rules. In the Alliance, the rules are created around the state of the area. It is important that all stakeholders respect the amount of commodities that can be collected. The Alliance creates an annual report of the state of the sea, in which is indicated what can be mined. In a situation where these rules are violated, the Alliance investigates the problem together with the violator. If this happens more often, the violator can be sanctioned. 7. Every common needs a form of conflict resolution. It is important that there's a form of conflict resolution available for any stakeholder in the common. Where in the garden conflicts can easily be solved by talking, the issues in the high seas call for a more structured system. Therefore, each stakeholder group has an objective lawyer at hand, who can be contacted in case of a conflict. When the conflict affects more groups in the high seas, it will be solved in the high seas court, made up of a jury of different stakeholders and lawyers from all groups, and assistance from the UN. If the conflict includes external stakeholders such as countries, a claim can be submitted by the International Court of Law in The Hague. 8. A common needs to be recognized by a higher authority. The Alliance is recognized by the UN as a higher authority. The UN follows the rulemaking and development on the high seas and can act in case of dysfunction of the Alliance. It might seem overwhelming to think of new management systems, but it is fundamental in our path to protect the environment. And within this, it's the small daily initiatives that can inspire a global way of thinking. Because just like the community garden, our world is a common space. So why wouldn't we manage it like one?
Me? Mic check. 1, 2, 3. Nor?
I can hear.
All right. Are we live?
I think so. I'm not sure.
Testing. Can you hear me? Great. Fantastic. How, right. Nor, we just watched your video. That was really interesting. And I have to say, I'm personally fascinated with how much information, or let's say macro research, you have done. Seems like your full, interest is quite into the large scale system mapping and understanding. And maybe to start off this conversation, I will read your project text for the Alliance of Common Waters.
Yeah, go for
Yeah.
it.
All right. So it reads, the Alliance of Common Waters explores a scenario that offers a blueprint for common care of international waters. based on management mechanisms found in the context of community gardens. This scenario translates into a video essay, the one we just watched, aims to shed light on small-scale initiatives, pioneers, and ideas, and demonstrates how these can be of inspiration to change larger systems. So Noor,
Yes.
really great to have you here.
Thank
How are you
you.
feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good.
Okay, great. I mean, you have a long public program.
I hope nobody's tired of me already.
I'm definitely not, and I have a ton of questions for you, and I would just like to throw it out there, people in the audience. If you have any questions, we will preserve some time in the end. People also watching on YouTube can post comments and questions in the comment section below. And yeah, so I guess for me, the first question would be, why community gardens? I mean, how did you make that connection? Was it just like a dream that you had, or I don't know?
Well, it actually comes from a existing research of Elinor Ostrom, which is the first female Nobel Prize Award winner in economics, and she established these. I have to go back a bit further, but there's this idea which is called the tragedy of the commons, and the idea goes that if there is a common resource, it will eventually lead to the depletion of this resource, because people will always try to get their own interest out of it in such a level that in the end it will be depleted and overconsumed. And Elinor Ostrom wanted to prove that there's actually cases of commons that show that this is not the case. And so she researched commons all over the world, from food forests, or communities that together maintain an irrigation system. And with these, she created 7 prerequisites for common care. And this really fascinates me, because it gave me this optimistic view of okay, there is a way we can take care of our commons together without this ownership and this privatization. And so I decided I want to see that for myself, and I decided to look for commons in the Netherlands to see if these prerequisites that she put up are actually there. And I went to diverse commons in the Netherlands. So I also, not only did I go to the community garden, but also to a food forest, to a communal living space, to a communal landscaping, initiative in a municipality. And what was really interesting to see there is actually that these people didn't know about this research, but all these rules, they're quite broad rules. That's also how she put them up, because of course every situation is different, but all these prerequisites that she set up were actually visible in these functioning commons. And so I decided to take one of the commons, which was this community garden in Amsterdam North. And I wanted to just work there to realize how actually their small political system was working. And that was really fascinating. I decided to use that as a case study to put next to this large common, which is the international waters. And so it came to be.
Wow, it's incredible, and also amazing to hear the context and the inspiration behind it. How did you find out about this Elinor? What's her name again?
Elinor Ostrom.
Elinor Armstrong.
Ostrom.
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 Okay, Armstrong. How did you find out about her, or what did she inspire this project, or were you already thinking about large-scale systems? What's your fascination in this topic, and how did it start?
Well, it started out first. I am also really interested in this concept of nationality and flags, and so it started out with this idea of ownership and what that means, and then it turned more into so what does it mean to not have any ownership, and how does that function? Does it still work?
Yeah, I think I unplugged the computer on the bottom, but it's okay. Keep going. My head's just gonna disappear.
Yeah. Okay. So then I went into this idea of what does it mean to not have ownership, and how does that exist? And from there on, I came to the commons, and I researched the commons, and then I found her research, which is actually quite a famous piece. It's called Governing the Commons, and that's how I found out about it.
That's super interesting. I move too much with my feet on the bottom, and that's good. You can't really see that.
You dance too much.
But maybe we can come back to also this, how does your position as a designer when it comes to, I guess, community gardening and also huge topics of, our relationship with the water and with this thing which really doesn't have any boundaries, kind of like also a shared space. I mean, how does a designer come into this huge topic and talk about all these big issues from this aspect of a micro scale community? It feels to me that there's this parallel worlds that exist, which can create pathways for people to look at things differently. Maybe talk a little bit about how you see yourself as a designer looking at this big topic.
Well, that question I have always struggled with, because I also don't know if I'm really still a designer.
Oh, okay.
Because I decided to also study something different. But I think as a designer, what I find really interesting what design can do is that you really learn, or I really learned in Design Academy how to create links between things that maybe aren't obvious. And I thought that's also maybe what my goal was here to see, like, because I don't think necessarily my own craft, like none of my own craft is in this, or none of my own stories or my own inventions are in this. But I think the power of design can be that you find stories and you see their value and you try to give that a platform.
Right.
And so that's what I hope that my position would be in this, to show, like, look at how these small scale communities govern, and considering our complex political systems now and the fact that a lot of people feel detached from that, maybe this can be an example of what the essence of politics is and how beautiful it actually is, because it's simply about finding ways to manage our earth together. So I just thought it was inspiring, and I wanted to translate that to the more bigger and complexer scale of that.
For sure. And I think for me this really touches on a more caring approach when it comes to design and bringing care into the picture, because when you think of such huge pieces of let's say the way we look at the world, or what we look at as design, whether it's water or food or a garden, I mean, you need to care for it, and then when you start looking at these micro managing systems, or the way that people do it in a different context, all of a sudden you can apply it there. And I wonder, like, how do people respond to this, like when it comes to people from water management or in trade, because the North Sea, the water that we have closest to us in the Netherlands, it's really very complex and then fully a world in itself that is I guess, does it need care? And do people within these systems understand or relate to your comparison?
I didn't really talk a lot to people like within those fields. I did talk to some oceanic scientists, and well, first of all, my project is quite naive, because it's not a solution.
That's good to be aware of that. Yeah.
I really wanted to be naive in a way, because there's so many issues, and I thought if I just approach this really from the most naive way of what politics is, then what comes out of it. But then that also creates that if you talk to scientists who, of course, will look at it very practically, they're like, oh, okay, this is a very big topic for somebody to research. But still, the idea that they found the idea very interesting, and to think about it in that way, they said it was interesting, but they also said it's an insanely large topic. And I think also, there's so much more that comes into play too. Like, you have, for example, I think for a long time, the international waters maybe didn't really need care, because there wasn't a lot of interest in them. But now that fish is getting, like, the fish, national waters, like the territorial waters are like almost depleted of fish.
Right.
And there's more techniques of deep sea mining, and now it kind of moves to the interest of countries move to this space as well. And so it's actually now time to think, how would we handle that?
Yeah.
And that was maybe also kind of like a suggestion. Maybe we could look at things that are, instead of like saying, okay, this part belongs now to this country and this part belongs to that country. Maybe we can look at it and think like, okay, there's examples of common care. Maybe we could apply that in a way. But of course, it's it's difficult.
It's difficult even in a garden, I can imagine, and that's like kind of interesting to start maybe like understanding where these relationships start to have friction.
Yeah.
And then to kind of take people on this journey of almost looking at their space, which is huge and large, in a context that maybe is more manageable, but super interesting. And I'm very curious, and I hope that you don't stop being naive as a designer, because then it opens up these incredible projects and research methods, which I really feel like your project is like a method of system based change and intervention. And I saw that you are nominated for the Kazerna Prize, so I wish you all the best of luck in that.
Thank you.
And would love to maybe go quickly, if you still want to, your presentation.
Oh yeah, I think we kind of discussed already a lot.
Yeah, so then maybe we're good with that. Yeah. All right, that's awesome. Then I guess it was really lovely talking to you, Noor.
It was really lovely talking to you too, Brian.
And I hope I don't kick the electricity cables anymore. But maybe before we end our talk, you could tell us a little bit about your where to find you, what you're up to now, and then.
Well, you can find me physically in Brussels, but don't stalk me because I wouldn't be into that. And you can find my website, which is noorbootsma.com, which is just my name.com. Or you can also follow me on Instagram, but I don't know if I post a lot there. And you can always email me.
Awesome. That's the
and
best
I
way.
I really like to talk about politics. So if you just want to talk about politics with me, then I'd enjoy that.
Awesome,
so
great. You're gonna get some political discussions in your future.
Exactly.
And I'm just checking the chat room on YouTube if anyone has posted any questions. I see a woo from Scott. I don't know if I'm saying his name. Do you know? Do you know?
I don't know him.
You have a fan.
I say woo to you too.
A woo back. We have a woo friend. Awesome. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned, because I'll be presenting my project Landschap in a few minutes. So thank you for watching, and see you in a few minutes.
Hi, I've got promoted. I'm very proud. I'm going to introduce Poliana and our project, the real, true Poliana that already did this whole event by herself. And she can also design, so she's multi-talented. I'm going to introduce your project by reading your text, if that's fine by you.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about it. So it says here, shepherds maintain biodiversity of the landscape and well-being of their flock of sheep while preserving culture. Pollyanna sought to make their contribution manifest by creating blankets from wool of the 5 breeds of sheep. Each blanket paints an intimate portrait of the shepherd's relationship with the flock and the countryside they inhabit. So first of all, maybe it's nice to talk about the topic and what inspired you to go into shepherds.
Yeah, well, thanks, Nor, for being my my host for today. I really, yeah, I'm super happy to be presenting this work, Landschap, here. And yeah, I mean, the inspiration for it was, of course, maybe I can pull up and share my screen. A very special person. Here we go. All right. I'm gonna hide my thumbnails. There. Yeah. So this shepherd over here, his name is Herman. I have my little cursor on him, I think. And Herman, he breeds Drenthe Heideschapen. And this breed of sheep is a very old breed, which exists in the Dutch landscape. And I learned a lot about what a sheep breeder does, and also the importance of cultural heritage of domestic animals through him. And through talking to him, realized that there are a variety of people involved in caring for the what we consider nature landscape or nature reserves. And these roles involve people who not only watch and make sure that the sheep are healthy every day through walking with them in these nature reserves, but also people like Herman who breed them in a small, what they call in the Netherlands a kudde, a small flock. And yeah, I just kind of became fascinated with this. All of a sudden, I started seeing the Dutch landscape through the way that their relationship with it is, which is really managing it through not just managing the way that the land is formed, but the way that the land is kept through working with animals. And then for me, that was really beautiful, this collaboration of sheep and shepherds working together. So that's kind of where the inspiration for this project started. And maybe I can introduce the 5 people that you see here.
Definitely.
The first one I talked about was Herman, and then this is Freek. And he takes care of Schonebekers. And then there is...
That's the sheep rat,
yeah, Schonebeker. They're also very similar to Drenthe, but they don't have horns.
Okay.
And they also are from the Drenthe area. Schonebeek is the area in the north, close to... close to Drenthe. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing these Dutch places properly.
I think you are.
I'm half Dutch, half Indian, so this is also why I guess my Dutch is not perfect. I grew up in India, but studying design in the Netherlands kind of, for me, opened up my fascination to, I guess, materiality and place. People working within spaces, which I've always been fascinated with, and I wanted to like approach it through looking at the Netherlands and doing my project about that. But so yeah, these people were kind of like my guides to understanding the Dutch culture, I guess.
And did you communicate also with them in Dutch, or?
Yes, everything was in Dutch. So that was also a very fun experience practicing Dutch and speaking to them as well. Some of them are very patient with me, of course, because my Dutch is not amazing. And maybe I'll continue introducing them. The third one is the one in the middle, and she works with Veluwe's Heideschaap. Her name is Daphne, and Daphne works in the Veluwe. And the Veluwe Heideschaap are one of the breeds which maintain this huge nature reserve. And then we have here Rob, and he is taking care of the Kempisch Heideschaap. And the Kempisch Heideschaap are sheep that are very close to Eindhoven. So
like
if
the
you're,
Kempisch.
yeah, the Kempen, and it's actually on the border of the Netherlands and
Belgium?
in Belgium,
Or- yeah.
exactly. And this border, these sheep are basically used for a long time to preserve these nature reserves. And they do this by basically eating away the grass that's not desirable, and also transplanting, for example, weeds that are local to this area, plants that are, let's say, bring insect variety. And work in the end, I wanted to show a short video about the Kempisch Heideschaap, and the ones that specifically take care of the Straatsbergse Heide, which is very close to Eindhoven. And this will kind of show you a little bit of where I'm going in continuing with this project. And,
Nice.
And the last one is the Mergelander. And the Mergelander sheep, they are in Limburg. And this, this shepherd's name is Louise. And she is incredible second generation shepherdess. And the landscape that she manages is super hilly. I mean, you have to imagine climbing every day up and down, working with the sheep. It was incredible experience to go there, and I really am fascinated with this family and how they continue to keep this tradition alive.
It's really a family tradition also.
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Her
father
only, or with
her
all of
father is a shepherd as well,
Okay.
and she's second generation, and this is very rare to find in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's interesting to see how they all have very local names. I didn't, because they are really different sheep breeds that are specific for this typical area in the Netherlands.
yes.
That's very interesting. I didn't even know we had such such diversity.
Oh,
within
we have
sheep.
even more. This is just 5. There's at least 10, if not more, breeds. So yeah, I honestly feel very yeah. How do you say it? I'm sorry. I just wanted to go back to this picture because I realized I said her name wrong. Her name is Janine.
Okay.
I'm kind of nervous, so but just to correct that. But yeah, there are many different breeds.
And what is like, because you probably hear their story, because they're people that are so important yet very invisible, because I had actually no clue already about the sheep breeds and about their job. Like when you think of becoming a shepherd, it's kind of it feels kind of like as if it's already some sort of profession that doesn't really exist anymore, but they're still so apparent. So how, for example, do they view their own position within this?
Yeah, I think that's one thing I wanted to show with this blanket was kind of like translate their position, tell the name of the breed of sheep that they're working very hard to preserve, and tell a little bit of where it comes from, how many there are, and also the status I think was important to include, because the status basically tells whether or not it is endangered or not endangered, and this is what we use in what is being used in conservation to kind of show whether or not an animal needs to be like under watch and we need to preserve it or not. But there's, for example, a lot of different things involved in this. Yeah, I guess it's a lot more complicated than just saying, okay, there's not enough of these animals here and therefore they're endangered. But it can also be that there are a lot in only one herd and therefore they're endangered because there's not smaller flocks like Herman taking care of smaller breeds of sheep in different areas to preserve the diversity of the breed.
Yeah.
So this can happen, and also maybe can be endangered if they grow out of hand and there's too many, they endanger other species.
And where is it decided which breeds get this stamp of endangered or not? Is that like a political decision, local political decision?
Yeah, I think it is definitely a decision made by people who are either working within nature management.
Okay.
So and also in people within the how do you say it, the associations who are taking care of these breeds. They also say keep tabs on how it's developing, and this process is also very interesting. And I guess the project is about revealing the different roles that are, and the different like kind of micro actions
Yeah.
that go into taking care of a non-human, a sheep.
Yeah.
And I consider myself a non-sheep. But I think it's quite funny to like look at also the way that we interact with like the living world and seeing ourselves as part of it, and not just like everything else is separated from us. So that's why I call myself like a non-sheep. And the same way we look at them as like non-humans. I mean, in a way, we need to kind of like look at ourselves as a part of it.
And in this profession, they really do so.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think they have to.
Yeah.
Because, and maybe you see it in the video, like the stuff that they have to do in order to preserve it. I think it's it's really difficult space of how do you continue to preserve heritage and in a culture that is changing, in a landscape which needs to be preserved, but also which is, let's say, an idealized version of how we see nature.
Yeah.
Where can we start to communicate the relationships and the ecosystem that exists also on its own, that can thrive with us not doing anything, but also just being there, part of it, watching it. So I think that's something which we can really learn from shepherds, being somewhere
that's
watching
a really
it.
interesting. The whole like seeing what's going on with nature now is really interesting in general. Like we've gone quite distant from it, and we think we're in nature. Well, is it still really nature? And
I feel like we are nature, and I think we are starting to understand that more as designers. I personally, during COVID and graduating during this time, felt like this was a huge revelation for me, is to start to look at myself not as somebody who is, trying to, understand everything, but really just observing it and being there and allowing space for things to reveal itself to me, like slow manifestations of understanding what's going on, letting things speak their language and trying to learn it. So that's...
Was that also like, did that also really help as a parallel to have your own, really to be stopped by nature in a way, and at the same time research how you're part, how these people are part of nature and
I think so. Yeah, definitely. Definitely, yeah. And I guess we're running out of time, but I just wanted to like show maybe a short film that I had filmed this year of the shearing process of the Campus Schaarderschap in close to Eindhoven, the Staatswijkse Heide. So maybe we can go to that. But thank you, Noor, for hosting me.
Thank you for explaining your project so nicely.
Die slapen jullie in de wastrap.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Missed Your Call public program. And I'm here live with Job Klaassen. How are you, Job?
I'm good. I'm good. Doing great.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's really wonderful to have you here. And I would like to start our session by reading your project text.
Perfect.
Yeah. Your project is called Astrologic. Astrologic is an exploration into the endless possibilities of commercializing of our night skies, which shows how we can artificially realign the stars to create patterns of luck within a commodified cosmos through satellite technology and astrology. No.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot of words in one sentence.
Yeah, but it's a beautiful sentence, and also I have to say, like, what is your sun sign?
My sun sign. I think my friends say I'm like a classic Sagittarius, and I am one. And like all like the main characteristics of them, it's me. Like it's, so that's actually really fun.
That's fun. It actually aligns to your real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say, I don't really know how I feel about astrology when it comes to like fact, but I love the fiction. And I love the fact that we see these parallel, kind of reflections of ourselves and everything around us. And maybe for like your relationship or with this project and how you started it, can you tell me a little bit about your fascination?
Yes, I actually started a project with trying to find a common ground between astrology and satellite technology, because in some way, like these topics are really far detached from each other, but
Yeah.
also like they kind of are happening in the same space, and they're literally happening in space. And I think it's
A
also
different space, but in space.
exactly. And I think it's fun because like satellite technology is something really like concrete, factual. Like it's just like and like astrology is more like a form of belief and spirituality, and like you have to have like a certain like connection with it. Um, look into these topics. I actually found out that like these big tech companies, like they're sending out like thousands and thousands of satellites into lower Earth orbit for like a really big commercial internet network. And actually, that means that these big tech companies are in between the connection we have with stars and like nature and the night sky is how we know it. Because like a lot of little like light dots are starting to appear in the night sky,
Yeah.
and it's just like sometimes you think, am I looking at a star? Like, am I gazing at the stars, or am I just gazing at like
A
a
satellite.
swarm of satellites? So I started to look into that and how that works. And in my work, I then also really like to look at like things that happen like current happenings or moments in popular culture, and I like to make a redefinition of it, like almost like a high redefinition. And in doing so, I really like to approach these topics with scenario writing, and in these scenarios, I use tools like absurdity and humor to then make this redefinition and then make it like even bigger and like more theatrical. And in that way, yeah, I'm approaching these topics. That's
Yeah.
also why I like film so much,
Yeah.
because you can talk about
Create
like
this like alternative narrative. This
exactly,
fiction.
exactly, and like yeah,
Yeah. It's super cool. And I think also the video that we're playing now, these are the three scenarios. So the first one we saw was the basketball um, character.
yes.
Do you have like I don't know, how did you choose these characters? Were they something that you related to, or something that you, I don't know?
It's like I divided the film in three different scenarios. So the first one is self belief and prosperity, and the second one is career and expertise, and the third one is romance and desire. And I choose those topics because for me, um, they come like directly back in astrology. Like if you take like the most like superficial simple form of astrology is like the pages in the back of a magazine
Yeah,
where
exactly.
you can read into your star sign, and they always talk about like how it will go on work, and like if if how successful you're gonna be, or like how your love life is gonna be, and like also in this. So I was looking at those topics and then translate them into like everyday scenarios.
Yeah, it touches on like I guess our core desires. I guess love and financial security, and the other one was success, right? And these do you feel like the comparison of looking at astrology and hoping for this, and also just looking at technology and the way that we kind of see technology as the solution for everything nowadays, and I don't know. I feel like there's also this kind of funny parallel of the way we use technology and the way that we use astrology. Is that also why you chose to combine these things?
Exactly. Yeah, I try to combine those things because, like I said, like there's like friction, you know, like they're so different and so similar, and the thing is then nice to combine these two topics together than to like to highlight one and highlight the other, because also like I've noticed for like the last 5 years for sure, like astrology has been really growing and really became like almost like a really popular medium. And like you have like so many meme pages which are just approaching these memes via the characteristics of a star sign, and that's only became like bigger and bigger, and then this combining like these different moments in popular culture and bring that together in a film. That's what I actually really enjoy doing, and also like to just talk about these big topics. Like I've been looking into big tech companies like SpaceX and like and Amazon, but then I'm showing like an everyday situation on like a micro level, and I think for me that was the interesting thing to talk about these topics without naming them or like directly showing in video, but then something recognizable for the viewer.
Yeah, and also I think maybe that's a good way to talk about now what you're doing in your fascination with this project and how it's leading to what you are curious about and what you're going to continue to do. Do you have any film or projects that you're thinking about doing, or your approach in design? Like, do you see it going more towards filmmaking?
Yeah, like I'm now working as a filmmaker and as a communication designer, but I now have to get kind of find my way into like the film world, you know. Like I did a design study, and then like now I just have to like figure out like how to really get into this film world, because like via my education I found that I actually really enjoy filmmaking, but I'm not like schooled as a filmmaker, but I am a filmmaker in my own way, you know. Like so like I also like I think you can see it, like I'm approach filmmaking really in my way, and then that's also been a really big part of like concept development, writing, and all this stuff. And I actually really like that pre-moment of like developing this whole script, like this like scenario writing. And those are all like these things like which I can now like work on, like develop, and it's actually I really enjoy it.
Super cool. I hope that you find a way to continue in this direction. Also, I can imagine that I don't know, when it comes to random scenarios and taking people into, I don't know, a new way of how do you say it, directing, you use a little bit of this playful element, but also changing the shape of the screen.
Yeah, exactly.
And different aspects of it. It was super cool. And if you're in Milan, you should definitely check out Job's work. It's on display, and lovely to talk to you a little bit. Maybe we can end our conversation with you sharing where people can find you, or
yes, yeah, you can find me on Instagram. It's just my name, Job Klaassen. We can also check on my website to see like other projects. We give like I think a good image of what I do as a designer and a filmmaker, and like what is my.
And maybe you can share what's your favorite movie.
My favorite movie. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Do you have a favorite film director or favorite?
Shrek 2. I would say Shrek 2 is my favorite film. For sure.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Welcome, Jonathan. Well, I would like to start with the first question. What makes you the perfect candidate for this job?
I feel that my stars are standing wide, and I experience a phase of personal growth, which your company could benefit from.
He loves me. He loves me not. He loves me. He loves me not. He loves me. He loves me not.